Welcome to the Master Builders Victoria Building Master Builders podcast. I'm your host, Sam Smith. Master Builders Victoria was established in 1875 by a group of distinguished builders intent on raising standards within the industry. Since that time, the organisation has grown to become a preeminent industry voice with members universally renowned for their reliability, skill and professionalism. Today, Master Builders Victoria leads a future-ready industry that builds a better world. During this podcast series, we bring industry experts directly to you to discuss trends and challenges within our industry to empower people to build a better future. Today, we are joined by Nicole Donnison, Social Procurement and Inclusion Manager for ICON. ICON were the 2024 MBV winner for Excellence in Social Procurement with their project of traditional owner artwork integration. This aimed to foster inclusive communities and enhance social outcomes through sustainable development practices across the project's lifecycle. Nicole is going to be a panellist at this year's Master Builders Victoria Diversity in Construction Lunch. Now that's coming up later in November. Nicole is responsible for embedding the practice of social procurement across the ICON group. She's committed to creating possibilities for social change, and I'm really interested to hear how some of Nicole's lived example with implementing social procurement within ICON group, but perhaps some examples as well, some starting points for some of the construction industry that might be looking at where to from here. Welcome, Nicole. Thanks for jumping on board. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
That's all right. I guess to start off though, like social procurement, it's a term, but what is it? What is social procurement?
It's a great question, and I think it can feel a bit overwhelming. By definition, social procurement is about an organisation using their buying power to generate value beyond the value of the goods and services that they're procuring. Now, what does that mean? Well, again, that's quite a lofty kind of definition. It's using our buying power for good and driving deeper value into the community.
All right. And as a social procurement and inclusion manager, what's that?
It's probably the greatest job in construction, to be honest, to be fair. But look, a social procurement and inclusion manager is responsible, as you said up front, for embedding a practice of, buying better, let's say. So delivering better outcomes through our procurement and commercial strategies and broadening the diversity within our workforce. My role essentially grew out of, in Victoria, winning government work, which have targets set through the government's social procurement framework. Yep. Yeah. But beyond that, ICON, the business I work in, saw the value of social procurement, not only from a delivery perspective, but from a cultural perspective amongst our people. And so we took that to then apply it more broadly across all of our projects, So my role then has reach across our non-government projects and is really about encouraging some curiosity in this space, raising our gaze around what suppliers are out there, what subcontractors are out there, what employment partners we could be using to really broaden the impact of the day-to-day decisions that we make into the community.
Yeah, it sounds really good, but why is it important, especially for the construction industry?
Look, I think it's important for everybody, not just the construction. We all live in the community. There are people who are being left behind and being locked out or shut out of employment through a whole range of scenarios and circumstances. And what social procurement does is to allow us to provide opportunities for those people. And I think that's a motivating factor that goes beyond construction. But construction is a really diverse industry and has been a great supporter of social procurement by other names, prior to a policy being written. This is not new to our industry. We do have a diverse supply chain and subcontractor base. We are welcoming of a whole range of people into our industry and onto our work sites. We're not doing this because of a policy, but certainly the policy has been a bit of a lever to accelerate outcomes. We have our own social procurement strategy. So we have a target of generating social value across our national business and across the group. And we're currently implementing a whole range of tools to do that because, to be fair, 4 years ago when I came into the ICON business, we didn't have a role. But I think the role was brought in to respond to a target on a contract, but it certainly has become a lot more than that. And really it's been about opening us up to a different way of doing business. Still building the best buildings that we can build, still building on time and on budget with reliable partners, but just generating broader impact into the community as we do that.
So I guess there's certainly benefits for some of those community members or community groups that you're talking about with these social procurement policies. Why would a construction company want to delve into social procurement? Is it solely because of government policies, government tenders that they're applying for? Are there other benefits to it?
Oh, there's so many factors. And I think, there's probably two responses there. And the first one is that it makes good business sense. So you can buy whatever you're currently buying and procuring through your traditional suppliers, you can buy through a social enterprise or an Aboriginal business. It's the same quality, they're reliable, they're highly capable. It makes good business sense to be operating in that space. And when all things are considered equal, you're generating greater benefit to people who need it the most. I think secondly, why would you play in this space? Because it's really good for your people. And culturally, it's actually builds a lot of pride and satisfaction across your workforce. I certainly have seen that across subcontractors who are in this space where they say to me, we were buying this item and we actually didn't realise the impact that was going to have on our workforce. They're really proud. We've completely switched all of our corporate suppliers to social enterprise and Aboriginal business through a really deliberate process, and that was led by the CFO. That took...
Why?
Why did we do that?
Yeah.
Well, we wanted to be showing leadership in this space. We wanted to be demonstrating that, we ask a lot of our subcontractors and we say to them, well, we want, you through your delivery of your work packages to be able to advance these targets and advance this aspiration. And we wanted to be able to show that we were also active in that space in the areas that we could. So we started small. We looked at our recurrent purchases, so PPE, uniform, office supplies, pre-employment medicals. And we went out to the market and saw, well, who was there in that social enterprise or Indigenous business sector that could deliver those services for us. It took that leaning in to be able to achieve those outcomes. And that has had huge impact for those businesses. We went from buying $2,000 worth of high-vis vests. We're now spending, $60,000 a year or more. And what that looks like is full-time employment for 2 women in that community as a result of that procurement. Now, we're doing that. If all the other businesses in this space are doing that, we can have this kind of collective impact. And I think all it took, and I'm not saying it was easy, but all it took was thinking about how we consider what we're buying and how we weight the importance of the impact that those organisations are having in our evaluation. It's not simple, but it took the leadership of our CFO and the backing from, at the top end of our business to drive those outcomes.
Say there are a couple of suppliers that you're looking at for whatever it is. Maybe it's PPE, maybe it's stationery. I don't know. We can insert your own example there. Is there a specific framework or metrics that you might be looking at to evaluate, okay, which one's going to have the greater social impact?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And really the key questions come down to, are you a certified social enterprise or Aboriginal business? And if you are, we know that you're genuine and that our money is going into the right places. Are you supporting a cause that we're aligned with? Do we have a strong values alignment? I think that's really important. And are you delivering a quality service? Again, that it's not unique to any of our subcontractors or suppliers. We expect high quality, reliable, capable organisations working with us, and we expect to see that whether you're a social benefit supplier or whether you're just a traditional supplier. So it really is that values kind of layer that's really important to us.
Yeah, I think you've mentioned a couple of things, one being authenticity with both your contractor or supplier, but also within your own business. It's about doing this genuinely, not just for the sake of saying, oh, we have a social procurement policy. But also cost is certainly a factor in the decision making, but there's so many other things that need to be considered along the way too. But I guess most importantly, you're forging that relationship with that supplier, with that contractor, that you've built that over a period of time. They know the way that you work, your expectations, your needs, and they can provide that better service than perhaps you were getting elsewhere as well, because they've grown with you.
That's right. And as they scale and as they grow, capability grows, just like with any supplier or subcontractor. We get to know each other's needs and how to meet them, And I think our duty when working with that social benefit supplier is to say to them, what can we offer you to help you, respond better to our needs? So what barriers can we remove? What ways can we support you in your commercial operation to ensure that this is a level playing field and you are being considered more broadly by other builders across the sector? I don't want to sound like I don't want people to switch off when they say this isn't about cost, because absolutely cost is really important, right? We understand the margins are really tight in building, but I think when we can see the investment that we're making and we can still make money, then I think we've kind of got that equilibrium.
Now, do you have some examples of social procurement in action, some of that positive impact that it might have had on either a group in society or with the employer or the construction company themselves?
At Icon, when we started this journey, we'd done a survey of all of our employees to understand, what social issues were important to them and what values were really important for them to see Icon investing in. And from that, we were able to get a picture of the key social challenges that our people wanted to see us be active in. And we found social enterprise and Indigenous business that were aligned with those values. So some examples of that, for instance, are Fruit to Work. So Fruit to Work are an organisation who provide kitchen consumables across all of our construction site offices, tea, coffee, fruit, milk, hot cross buns at Easter, you name it, yeah. They do everything and they're fantastic, and they support people as they're transitioning out of corrections, people who are really struggling to find work or...
How do they get back into that community that perhaps they've been out of for a little while there too?
That's right, and they're locked out of work because of, that gap in their CV, the bias around criminal record, the constraints that are put on them in terms of their capacity as a result of their corrections order or parole conditions, etc. And they're really looking to rebuild their life and the life of their families. And a job gives someone dignity and it gives them hope and purpose. So Fruit to Work are a great example of where you can do the simplest thing of buying your milk and your fruit and your kitchen items through a social enterprise, but it is absolutely life-changing for those people. So that, again, taps into those values. I think for me, one of the organisations that Icon invests in and has a fantastic partnership with is Unisys. Unisys operates canteens on our construction sites. So who doesn't love a coffee in the morning and, access to some, healthy food on site at lunchtime?
Or hot cross buns.
Yeah. Well, probably more hot dogs and things like that, but salads, etc. But look, Unisys exists to support women who are, or people facing disadvantage and barriers to employment, but in particular women who are experiencing homelessness or who are navigating family and domestic violence. And, holding down a job when you're living in insecure housing or an unsafe environment can be really challenging because you've got other priorities that really need your attention. But holding down a job and having financial security and stability is what can help move you out of that situation. So supporting Unisys, again, by simply having a canteen on site, which everyone loves, is actually life-changing for these women. And personally, I talked earlier about being able to align your values with an enterprise who delivers what you need, but also you feel meets your personal values. And Unisys is absolutely that. As someone with lived experience, family and domestic violence, I think if I can be part of a solution to give someone a hand up who's trying to navigate that space, then absolutely I'm really proud that I can do that through the delivery of my projects that I work on.
Now, looking at your projects too, these are some services that you would already be engaging. So it's not that you're introducing or working with these companies just for the sake of your social procurement policy. It's something that you're already going to do, but it's about thinking differently with how you apply that spend, about who you're engaging.
That's right. It's really just raising our gaze and making that switch to some non-traditional suppliers. This industry, construction, is built on relationships. And when we enter into a space where we're creating new relationships, that takes time to build trust, reciprocity, understand capability and remove barriers. But it's no different.
How might a construction company look at the different entities that they're working with and find those opportunities to improve or increase their social procurement practices?
I think you can grow that footprint simply by talking to the various peak bodies. Like you would come to Master Builders for advice. In Victoria here, if you're looking for an Indigenous business, you'd go to the Kinaway Indigenous Chamber of Commerce. Again, they're certifying Indigenous business across a whole range of trades and services, and you get that certainty when you're engaging a certified business. So I think rely on the experts, lean in to the partners and the services they provide members, become a member. That's the best way to access social benefit suppliers, and to just start a conversation and broaden your, I guess, the curiosity that you have in that space.
You'd say start a conversation. At first glance, this can appear implementing social procurement across everything that we do is quite a big task, but perhaps what I'm hearing is you can start small and chip away at sort of one thing at a time. You don't have to change everything in one go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are there some simple tips or suggestions that from your experience might be good places for people to start?
Yeah, absolutely. It can feel really overwhelming, and I'm reeling off all these, examples. And look, they've taken a lot of time to get those partnerships fulfilled, right? It does sound simple, and actually, it kind of is. It is simply just procurement, just through a different door or through a different way. I think what I would say is have a look across your suppliers and across your subcontractors, understand what you're buying, and just ask yourself the simple question: is there a social enterprise or Aboriginal business that I could buy this from? That's the first place to start.
Are there any trends that you might see emerging within social procurement? Is the industry or governments perhaps heading in a certain direction with it? Look into your crystal ball. What does the future look like?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And certainly we've seen a levelling up of capacity in this space across the tiers of builders in building construction. And I think everyone should be applauded for the efforts and the strides that they're taking in this space. What we're seeing from a government perspective is a shift around particular policy levers that they're pulling. So, for instance, 2 years ago, Victorian state government introduced the building equality policy under the social procurement framework, which is around participation of women and gender equity across the industry, which I think is, should be applauded and is really positive. 50% of the workforce are women, and we should be creating those opportunities to empower them in this great industry of ours. But I think just starting is the most important thing. And this is not the domain or the exclusive domain of government contracts. This is an expectation as part of our social licence to operate. What we're saying is we want you to buy better. We want you to think about where you're putting your money, the decisions you make with your buying power to generate better impacts into the community and to unlock the potential for people who are currently shut out. It's
not about social procurement, it's procurement. There's lots of big things that companies like Icon are doing, but you don't have to be all-encompassing. It's about being smarter or more considered with those decisions. Perhaps you're starting small. Pick an aspect of your office or your work site that you can be a bit more selective with who you're engaging, and take that first step. Don't worry about implementing it everywhere. Implement something and then build on it.
That's right. And look, we're seeing more and more suppliers across the supply chain in that materials space where there is opportunity, competitively to procure through a First Nations business or through a social enterprise. And we're seeing a diversification of opportunities.
Thanks so much for your time today, Nicole. It's been really, really useful to see some practical examples, but perhaps I don't have to have that lofty expectation, but really encourage people to start somewhere. Take some steps to be considered with the decision making, and you can build on that.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. And if I can leave on a final note, just to say, just stay curious. Just, open your eyes to the possibility. Start small, get that right, and then see where you go from there. And just give it a go. It's actually not that hard.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks so much.
I'm joined by Mel Beswick, Master Builders Victoria Senior Manager of People and Culture. Now, Mel looks after all things people and culture internally at Master Builders, all our team members there. They also have a People and Culture Advisory service. So that's an opportunity for members to call up and seek some guidance or support, all things people and culture. We've just heard Nicole's expertise and her experience implementing social procurement within Icon and some of the steps that they're taking there. Mel, what are those first steps? What's something that, if social procurement is a new term for you as a business, where do I start?
Yeah. Hi, Sam.
Hi.
So Social procurement, it seems like a big term, seems like a big word, and it seems like one of those things that you say, what is that? To me, it's just making a conscious decision about your buying power and where you spend your money, whether that be in terms of who you're hiring or who you're buying from. It has to feel genuine. And one of the ways to help it feel genuine is to think about your own company, think about yourself and what you really value and what makes sense to you in terms of if you were to spend a little bit of extra money or you would want to help out someone, whether it be a friend, whether it be a social cause, what would that be? And then think about a simple way that you could do that in your own business. So do you really have a passion about helping people who are living rough on the streets? Is there a way that you could include that into your business practices? You don't have to have all the answers. You might be able to, if you're a member, call the People and Culture Advisory team and say, hey, this is something that I'm thinking about. Have you got any suggestions? And we'll be able to help you along with that.
Yeah, there might be a view, a perception out there that businesses might engage in social procurement just because it looks good.
Yeah.
Like, is there another reason? Why should businesses look at their procurement strategies?
Yeah. Well, look, it does look good. So from a people management perspective, if your company feels like it's making an impact socially, your employees are going to feel really good about that. Well, I hope they're going to feel really good about that. It might make them take that extra step. It might make them think about what their own values and how that contributes to their own society. That might make them go home and donate to a charity. Who knows?
Also makes you attractive as an employer.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels good in that way, in the same way that it looks good. It looks good to customers who have similar values, and they might be the ones to say, hey, I'm going to go with those people because they donate to that charity or because they're involved in this cause. That feels special to me. And in a world where there's a lot of different providers of a similar service in the world, that might be the one thing that helps you stand out. As Nicole was saying, in terms of those government projects and a lot of those tenders that you might go for that have those requirements or asks around your social practices, that potentially will help you win business and get the kind of revenue that you're looking for. But these are the types of policies that starts trends, right? So if the government is doing this now, it'll only become bigger and more trendy to do in the future.
It's not going away.
It's not going away. It's definitely not. And in the people that we're speaking to, we're learning that people are leaning into this more and more. So if this is something that you're keen to get on top of in terms of preparing yourself for going for some of these contracts and attracting these types of jobs, this is definitely something to get around.
I think, like Nicole was saying, it's not social procurement. It's more about procurement strategies more broadly. This is just the way you do business now.
Yeah. And look, it can be as simple as having that conversation of what kind of impact do we want to have? What do we want this to look like? You can create some sort of a statement or a policy that gives you that first step, and then you develop practices from there.
Now, talking about social procurement, what support can Master Builders Victoria offer to members, and perhaps through the P&C advisory?
One of the reasons why I find it so useful that we give this advice through the People and Culture Advisory service is that what we are is predominantly professionals in people and culture management. So we manage our own team internally as well. And then also diversity and construction as well. So the advice that we give in terms of social procurement and in terms of recommendations for creating some diversity within your organisation, we're also able to help in terms of giving you that advice in a way that makes cultural impact internally as well, because this is something that we do day to day.
What is the overlap there between social procurement and diversity? Is it one and the same? Is there overlap?
There's definitely overlap. Diversity to me is different types of people in a room, regardless of where they come from, who they are. It's just having lots of different types of people in a room, making them feel welcome and involving them in the conversation. I wouldn't say that they're one and the same, but they definitely link and they form part of a wider culture.
I guess through that People and Culture Advisory, you can talk about not just the benefits, but the practical side of how a business might make some of those subtle changes over time.
Exactly. And we'll hear about some of the challenges that you might come across, whether it be through trying to make purchasing decisions or whether it be through what's going on within your team. And we can make suggestions on how to make some actionable steps to address both. And it might be something that's really simple. And yes, sometimes, as Nicole said, when we're talking about social procurement, there can be cost associated.
Again, investment.
Exactly.
What might be some of those simple first steps that you could take someone to? I guess it's case by case, certainly.
Yep.
But what are some starting points?
So I'd think about speaking to your team about what really social procurement is to you. It's not just, hi team, I want to change provider of X. It might be, hi team, we want to start thinking about where our money goes and making some really thoughtful decisions on that sort of stuff.
So
give me your suggestions.
Getting an understanding of where your team's values are aligned.
Yeah, because you're not the only one making a decision within your organisation. Your team is as well. And unless you've got your team on board in the everyday decisions that they make, it's really only going to be coming from that one person and that one person's decision in the day. So it might be a conversation with your office manager about whether they want to buy a large packet of pens in bulk, or it might be about looking at a different provider who comes from a different background, who's able to invest that money back into a social cause. There might be a larger cost associated with that. There might not be. It depends on the situation. But the impact of that investment is then that your office manager starts to think about things a little bit differently. They start to think about, they tell that story to their friends and families. They start to feel really, really good. Well, hopefully they start to feel even better about where they work, and they start to feel a lot more passionate about the impact that they can have.
They've certainly got buy-in into the decisions that you're making on behalf of the business too.
Definitely. That strengthens your relationship with your team members if they follow the same values, and they're statistically going to be more likely to continue with that employer for a little bit longer, because very often if you have that emotional connection or if you have that sort of value connection with your employees, they're going to stick around for a little bit longer. They're going to think about things differently when they get approached by another organisation. Do you do this? Because my employer does. Then you become an employer of choice.
Now, as part of your role, yes, there's that internal support, there's the member support. You also have some other functions. You're a judge for our Excellence in Construction Awards.
I am.
And so Nicole and Icon were the winner of the Excellence in Social Procurement Award this year. Both of you will be speaking at the Diversity in Construction lunch. You also moderate our Women Building Victoria project. Can you explain a bit more about what that one is too for me?
Yeah, so not too long ago we launched Women Building Victoria, it's essentially a group of people who are really passionate about gender diversity in the workplace and supporting particularly women in the workplace. It's not just a group for females in the building construction industry. It's mostly housed on our LinkedIn page, where we engage in a lot of collaborative conversations where regardless of what part of the team you're on, we're all working towards a similar thing and really keeping each other in check and keeping each other motivated and having some of these really great conversations. And then we'll be having some events next year and following that as well that are driven towards anyone within the workforce. So it might be whether you've been around the workforce for quite a while and you're really passionate about this trajectory and you want to support new people coming into the workforce. Are you a new person coming into the workforce? Are you an ally who wants to see how they can support this movement? So it's quite open and it's a really fun, welcoming environment where people are really passionate about what they do, and it's a nice place to be.
Now, Nicole and Icon were the winner of our Excellence in Social Procurement Award this year. What was it about their application that really stood out?
As she said, it came across as genuine. They'd thought about social procurement in a number of steps in the process. And a company like Icon, they have that power to do that. They've got Nicole, who's a great creator in this space and can create that loop and that feeling of as though it contributes to the entire project. So it's something that they considered. They asked questions. It wasn't just they spent X amount of money. They asked questions.
They were authentic. They were genuine. They built those relationships throughout the project as well. And it wasn't an afterthought.
No.
It was really intentional.
Yeah, they spoke to community members and they got their opinions as well. It wasn't just we think that this will look good, so we'll do that. It was what will actually create some positive change and including those people into the conversation.
And we've also got a diversity in construction lunch coming up later in November, where anyone listening who's going along will hear a bit more from yourself, Nicole, and a few other people on the day.
Yeah. This is the second year that we've ran this lunch, and we learnt so much in last year. So I'm really looking forward to building on that even more. I think what it really was it wasn't just preaching to the choir of people who are already passionate about diversity in construction in the room. We gave some really actionable insights into first steps that you can take or steps that you can take no matter where your journey is, and some real life people to go to and people to speak to. So I think regardless of where your journey is in terms of social procurement or diversity as a whole, in terms of how you're approaching it within your organisation, we gave some really good insights into tips. And it wasn't just diversity is good, let's have some lunch. It was some really engaging conversations. Yeah. The lunch was great too, if you're looking for some good food.
Thanks so much for your time today, Mel. There's some really interesting things coming up, both with, we've got awards again next year. Make sure that you think about applications going towards that. We've got the Women Building Victoria page as well. Make sure that you get engaged with that through LinkedIn. But also we've got the Diversity in Construction Lunch at the end of November too. So there'll be, we've talked a bit about social procurement here, but certainly there'll be aspects of that discussed in more detail.
Definitely. And you'll get to hear lots of other voices of people who do amazing things other than Sam, Nicole and I.
There's nothing wrong with those voices.
Nothing wrong with those voices.
So if anyone listening wants to find out more information, maybe it's about diversity, maybe it's about social procurement, where do you suggest they go? So
with People and Culture Advisory, we're not just there to say, oh, you want to do this, go in this direction. We're able to sit with you, work with you on what your organisation is, where you'd like to see it go, and bounce ideas off of each other. For members, that's a free service. So, give us a call if you're wanting to know a bit more or start your journey. Just contact People and Culture Advisory on MBV's phone number, 9411 4555. And so if they'd rather send an email too, they can send that through to mbassist@mbav.com.au and it'll all end up in my inbox. In your inbox too. Myself and my team. Yeah, we'd love to speak to you about it. Perfect. Thanks so much, Mel. Thanks. Bye.
This podcast was recorded on Wurundjeri land. MBV pays respect to elders past, present and emerging.